And by that I mean you have the thing itself, and then you have the meaning in larger life. So we think of spiritual as going, what happens when you die? That is part of it. But it's this interpretive meaning in a larger framework, like this is where faith is, what you believe. This is where trust is done. This is where belief is. This is where valuing is done. The spiritual is, again, about meaning. So, with these dimensions in mind, when it says that the man and his wife were naked and they were not ashamed, they were physically naked. Open to each other. Naked means to be open to each other, to be honest and open and not have any barriers. But it also was emotional openness to each other. In fact, God created a bond that would open their hearts up to each other. They were cognitively, mentally able to open up and to share. They were relationally open to each other. Their hearts were bonded together. And they were spiritually bonded together. Open, honest. And so meaning came from what God placed in there. And remember, as we see Genesis 1 and 2, the meaning God puts to things is very different than what we have interpreted them. God puts life in them. And what is meaning? Meaning is that life is what God created us for. So, now the picture of God here, let's take a look. The God picture here in Genesis 2, would you say it was intimate? I'd say you don't see much more than God blowing the breath of life in somebody and creating handmade beings and blowing into their nostrils and giving them as a gift and doing surgery and all that. Hands-on, artist. So we see intimate picture. We see artist. Excuse me. We see actively involved. With his creation. We see a very special relationship with God and humans, don't we? In chapter 2. Even above and beyond what we see in 1. It is a portrait of community with God. We see God as a gift giver. Handmade the woman for the man. Heightened the relationship that they would have. Created them to be bonded and no barriers. In fact, when you see the picture of God picture Genesis 1 and 2, now let's ask, that picture of God, what does it say about the value of humans to God? How much does God value humans? There almost aren't words. So we come back with priceless treasures. We have precious. And intimate. You know what happens when you're intimate with someone? It means you're close. Your hearts are bonded. You draw toward them. And this is the relationship we were created to have with God. This is what you would say is the apex of creation, wouldn't you? When you get here, you're going, wow. Wow. And that is what we were created for. Life with God, because God is life. Knowing God is life. So, when you see the God picture from Genesis 1 and 2, according to even what the needs were of these people, you begin to see they weren't living anywhere close to what God had created them. They were bowing down to cows. Look at what they were created to be, in a community relationship with each other, with God, and with creation. In fact, let me spell out for you our created purpose. This comes, now you watch how this, once you've heard this, chapters 1 and 2, and you understand our created purpose, you'll say, most people don't have a clue why we were created. Might job off a religious answer, but most people do not have a clue. I'm going to give you, from my understanding, what I've drawn out of this, what I believe the created purpose of God is for humanity. Let me say it this way. God created humanity to enjoy an intimate, life-giving, I'm going to use this term, healthy, and I'm going to explain that. Now the word healthy, we've got to be careful because we've turned it into some kind of craziness.
Vegan.
I'm going to show you a little trick. You want to know what healthy is? Heal thy. Relationships. You know what? Let me stop for a second here. When I say healthy, I'm talking about whole, complete, tamim, perfect. And don't get a performance idea of this. It's whole, which is what holiness is. Being whole. Being, not doing, but being what we were created to be. So, put a hole there. So we were created, God created humanity to enjoy an intimate, life-giving, healthy relationship of trust with God, with each other, and with all creation. This is our created purpose. Let's read that for a second. Let's read it for a second. God, the giver of life, created us, created humanity to enjoy. Look at all the things He did to bring joy. In other words, He wants us to live life. He wants us to know joy because that's what lovers do. He wants us to know intimacy. That is to know and be known by the God who loves us so much. Life-giving. We've already seen that. That is what God is about. And to do what we were called to do, to have the dominion, would be life-giving, wouldn't it? To have that dominion. To serve, to nurture, to take care of creation. To bless creation. The way God blesses it. We were created healthy. That is whole. To be complete. And we were created complete. And we were to be in a relationship of trust because think about what God created us for. If you don't have trust, what don't you have?
Nothing.
You can't have a relationship. And we were created for that because that's the heart of life. When we stop trusting, our spirit is crushed. close up. We withdraw. What does that do to intimacy? Because intimacy means openness and sharing and knowing each other, who we are. We were created to have that kind of relationship with God. He made us in His image and likeness. We were created to know life, because knowing God is knowing life. He is life. But also with each other. The relationship that He created there was to be intimacy with each other. Open, honest. And, notice this with all creation. Why all creation?
We're a part of it.
We're not only a part of it, but we are reflecting, remember, to be an image.
They can know God.
They will know God through us, and trust is necessary. If you want to get to know an animal, they've got to trust you.
Let's go know what happens.
And so animals would know what God is like through the way humans take care of them, nurture them, give them life.
But also the animals, well, were there in a sense to teach us what a relationship with God should also look like. Because they submit to us, which is a reflection of how we have to submit to God. They enjoy the presence of their own.
But when you say submit, you mean trust.
Trust, right, in essence.
Right?
Right.
When we trust, we are drawn to.
Right.
And trust means that that brings intimacy, doesn't it?
Right.
Because a measure of trust is what you're willing to tell somebody, what you're willing to give them. You can see a monetary measure of trust in, you trust them how much you're willing to lay in their hands and say, take this to the bank for me. I mean, that's just a practical. How much do you trust them? Well, I might give you 5, but I'm not giving you 5,000. Right? Measure of trust.